Hello, everybody. Welcome to the NUFC 360 YouTube channel. Football is back. Eddie Howe's Magical Mags are back, and we're here to talk about Newcastle United at home to Nottingham Forest. I'm here with Mark, Ez, and Max. Lads, how are we all doing?
Yeah, good. Thanks, Ben.
Yeah, all good. Thank you.
Yeah, good.
Good. So, lads, fresh season, lots of optimism. How are you feeling about it? Are we ready? Max, are we ready for this? Is the season ready to go?
I don't know. Maybe. I think I'm really excited for it because it's not only Newcastle, but I'm always excited for every team in the Premier League that dies down quite quickly. But I'm always excited to see what the new signings are going to do, what the new teams that have been promoted are going to do, the managers who maybe arrived in the middle of the last season and now have had a full preseason with their teams. So I'm just really excited, but I'm mostly, of course, excited about Newcastle and see how we get on tomorrow.
Good. Mark, how are you feeling, mate? You're confident season ahead?
Oh, I mean, I can't wait to be back at St James's Park. I've got a ticket for the game tomorrow. So, yeah, can't wait to be there. Can't wait for war flags. Can't wait for another class atmosphere. Can't wait to see Joe Linden randomly just smashing lads to the ground for no apparent reason. All of it. Bring it on.
Well, that's what we're all in it for, isn't it? Just Big Joe.
Exactly.
How are you guys? You feeling confident?
I think we've had a good pre-season. I'm confident that Eddie Howe has drilled the players into kind of how he wants them to play. So short term, I'm confident. Long term, it really depends what we do in the window. I'm not sure how far we're going to go this season with the attacking players we have. But for short term, for tomorrow, I think we're ready.
Well, it's interesting how far we're going to go. I think Howe is quite an interesting point because he's just signed a brand new contract, hasn't he? So how far? I don't know. They didn't tell us how long the contract was for, but I think it's good news. The lads seem to love him. The city loves him. So are you guys all happy about the extension of the contract? Mark, what are you thinking?
Yeah, I mean, how can you not be?
How can you not be?
he's the perfect manager for us. Certainly at this moment in time, and I would predict as well for the foreseeable future. It is interesting, you mentioned there that they haven't really said how long the contract is, but they did describe it as a long-term contract. The contract he signed back, when he came into the club was for the end of summer 24, I believe. So it's presumably at least one more year on top of that. So that would be 3 years from now as a minimum. And I'm all for it. Yeah, I think it's great news. Brings, further stability to the club. And I can't really think of a better person to hand an extension to right now.
Yep, I agree. Max, he's doing well, right? He's guys playing good football. It makes sense to prolong the contract further, right?
Yeah, absolutely. The last home game against Arsenal was probably the best football I've seen us play for since I started supporting. So 6 years. So it was really great. And the effort he did from taking us from the position we were in at that time with that squad to finishing this as strongly as we did, not many managers could have done that. So I'm really buzzing for him to sign on. I think he will take us only further.
Yeah, I agree. Anything else to add to that?
Yeah, I'm also it's really curious that they haven't told us the length of the contract. It might be one of those magic Steve Bruce contracts that just roll on and on and on forever, hopefully.
I hope not.
He is an elite manager. By all accounts, people who've been on pre-season, the journals who've been out in Australia and people who have observed him say he is an elite manager, at least in his application and his methods. He's maybe not an elite manager in terms of what he's done in the game yet. But yeah, I think he is... he's not. I don't think he's a stepping stone manager, which is what we perhaps thought he might be when he first joined the club. I think he can grow with the club.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's good news all around. They're playing great football. Max, to your point, I agree that Arsenal game was incredible. It's the best I've seen us play in a long time. Maybe bar Athletic Bilbao in the first half, which were again the passing was incredible. But yeah, good news moving forward. And move forward we shall. We're here to preview the game against Nottingham Forest tomorrow. 3:00, St James's. Their first game in the Premier League in 23 years. So the big question, Max, we're just going to smash them, aren't we?
Well, I hope so, but I don't think so though, because they're I watched them a bit. I can't say I watched them in the championship the whole season, but I watched them in the playoffs, and I thought it looked good. They played three at the back, good compact system. I think it's a tricky system to face when you play the way we do, but I think Eddie House figured them out. I hope so, at least. We got a good manager in Steve Cooper, and the fact that makes me a bit scared of them is that they have signed 13 new players, I think, and either they're going to do a full and where it completely flops, or maybe it will work really good. And also, it's all important for them to get gel the team together so they can play good. I don't know if they have done that yet, but I hope they haven't. But I think we should win that game.
Yeah, so Mark, he makes a good point. I think 12, 13 players, as you said, almost 100 million spent. Some really big names coming in there. Well, decent sized names for a newly promoted team. Awaniyi, I think it is, from Union Berlin, tore up the Bundesliga last season, 15 plus goals, I think it was. They've actually got some good players, a few that we've been linked to before with Henderson and Lingard. So what do you make of their business? Are they something we should be a bit more serious about, or are we going to
I think Eddie Howe definitely won't take them lightly, number one. And I think you're right to touch upon, and for Max to mention the signings, it's obviously critically important. 12 or 13 new players. How are you going to gel them together? Are they going to hit the ground running immediately? It's a lot of big questions there. I think to a degree, the football punditry world has been a little bit harsh on them. I've heard a lot of negativity about them, or, they're doing a Fulham or something like this, from a couple of seasons ago. In their defense, for Forest, they had 5 loan players last season. All of them have gone back to their parent clubs. They've had about 6 or 7 players go out of contract that haven't been renewed. So they're not really left with a choice to do anything else but to replace all of those players and bring in new bodies. So I can completely understand why they've done it. But in terms of what it means for us in the game, you would like to think that maybe some of that bounce that newly promoted teams often get at the beginning of a season maybe isn't there, just because they've got so many new faces. So obviously, if you're a championship side that's come up to the Premier League, you've been used to winning most of your games. But with most of those players gone, does that confidence carry through as much? Perhaps not. And if you're talking about teams that were winning most of their games, just look no further than Newcastle United in the second half of last season. So hopefully we've got that confidence that's going to pull through, and maybe they won't. We should have more than enough to beat them, really. Let's be honest. I'm not having any of these excuses that people are understandably nervous. I get it, but it's time to get out of the Mike Ashley era mode, I think, and we just need to have a bit more confidence about ourselves now.
It's hard. We've had Bruce.
It is. It's very hard.
At this point, for a lot of people, this is all they've known. It is.
It's very hard.
In the reserved camp, I'm a little bit nervous, but yeah, I think we'll do them, right?
I think we have to. Put it this way: if Jack Colback plays in the centre of the park tomorrow and we don't win, I'll be absolutely fuming.
One of my questions for later on for you guys was going to be, who's the first to get booked, Colback or Jolinton?
I hope they just both sort of simultaneously incapacitate each other or something.
Just a mad 50-50.
Yeah.
So I'm in Max's camp. I've not watched too much of Forest. I don't claim to be well in the know of them. I do know that they've got a very good player in Brennan Johnson. I know that they've signed a few good players. What are you wary of? Where do you think their threat is coming from? And then on the flip side, where do you think they'll be targeting in this Newcastle team? What do you think they'll be looking at as an opportunity?
Well, my opinion on the game is a lot less nuanced, I think, than you guys. I think we're going to smash them. I think we're going to go and hit them three or 4. But, yeah, I'm optimistic. I mean, when you look at some of their players, they've had minimal Premier League experience. You look at the likes of Henderson, barely played as a goalkeeper at the top level. Look at Lingard; he's barely kicked a ball in 2022. And Jack Colback, So I think there's a lack of experience there, and I think they'll start with a lot of adrenaline because it's their first game in 22 years. But ultimately, they're not playing at home, So I think back to Brentford Arsenal, was it last season, the first game, and you think they were at home and they beat Arsenal, and there was that, the crowd took them through. I just can't see that happening at St James's Park. Wary of Lingard, we always have this tendency to miss out on players, and then those players come back and haunt us afterwards. So I'm wary that I say this, and then Lingard will probably smash a couple in. But I don't know too much about the new individuals that they brought in. To be honest with you, I know they brought in 12, 13 new players. I'm not even sure Nottingham Forest fans quite know what to expect from their new team. In terms of our weaknesses. There aren't that many. I think it really depends who we play as a centre-back pairing. They may be able to take advantage of, I guess, the lack of time, Premier League time, that the centre-back pairing have played together if Howe goes with Botman, right? Whereas if he goes with Burn and Cher, there are very few weaknesses. Maybe Target's pace, maybe Burn's pace. They're a counter-attacking team, Nottingham Forest, so they may look to counter, but then I'm sure we'll play Pope, so I'm sure that we'll have that sweeper keeper to try and mop up. I'm not sure. I'm not sure where the weaknesses are that they can exploit within our team. Perhaps the midfield. If Joe Linton goes on the crazy one, maybe they can take advantage of that.
That's where we want to be, though, right? Less weaknesses. If we can't identify where we're weak, then I'm full of confidence going into this new season. But you touched on a really important point, looking at the Newcastle lineup there. There's been a lot of debate about who's going to play in this Newcastle team. I think the main talking point has been whether it's going to be Dan Burn or Botman partnering Cher in the centre of defence. So I'm just going to put you on the spot, lads. Who's it going to be? Mark, I'll come to you first. Who's that central defensive partnership going to be?
I think Howe will go with Cher and Burn. And if it were me and I were making the decision, I would do the same thing. Love Botman. I think he's had some great performances in the pre-season. But there was a game in pre-season where Cher and Burn played together, and you just sort of remembered, oh yeah, these guys are good. These guys are good, and they know each other quite well already, having played together for 6 months. And I think the other thing as well is, I assume that Forest are going to be quite physical. They're going to try and play counter-attack. They're going to be physical, probably have wing backs. That's basically how I expect them to set up. Do you really want to throw Botman into a first Premier League game against quite a physical side? I know he's a big guy, and yes, he probably could handle it, but why risk it when you've got two players who know each other so well, centre halves? So I think that'll be the centre half pairing. I think it'll be Pope in goal, Trippier and Target as the fullbacks, and then a midfield three of, the two shoo-ins are obviously Bruno and Joe Linton. Personally, I think he'll probably go with Longstaff in this game, but it's probably between Longstaff and Willock. And then for me, the front three at the moment picks itself purely because Almiron's had such a good pre-season. So it would be Maxi, Wilson, and Almiron. That's what I would probably go with. I think the two real areas of debate, as you say, are that centre-half pairing and then who's your third midfielder, basically.
Yeah, what about you, Max? What are you thinking? Are you going for the same thing? You going for the Burn and Shah combination, or are you going to go with Botman?
Yeah, I think Burn and Shah would be the safe bet for this game because they have a good partnership in Iwoni, and Brennan Johnson is a big, strong lad and a quick getting behind kind of striker. And I think if you're going to have Shah and Burn, of course Botman is strong as well, but get Burn's Premier League experience. I think it would be key, especially in this first game. Maybe ease Botman into the team like he did with Bruno. And otherwise, I pretty much agree with Mark, except maybe Willock instead of Longstaff. But I can see what Mark is coming from with it could be maybe Longstaff is a bit more defensive oriented midfielder, but it's really a toss of a coin. You don't really know. But otherwise, the front three I agree with, and I agree with everything else.
So yeah, it looks like so far on here it's going to be Burn and Shah. Crabsy Malone in the comments is saying it's going to be Burn as well. Magpie's Bible also saying it's going to be Burn and Shah. Me personally, I think he's got to go with Botman for the simple reason that there's no form on the table right now. It's the easiest game to throw him into at home against a newly promoted team. If they don't win and they go to Brighton, or even if they do win, they go to Brighton, they're not going to change a winning team. And then after Brighton, you've got City. A game or two after that, you've got Liverpool. You've got some really big teams coming up. And we all rinsed Steve Bruce for throwing Matty Longstaff over that Christmas period against the top of the table teams. Never saw him in a shirt again up until now, up until pre-season. I think get him in against, it's not going to be an easy game. They do have good players, as you touched on, Max. But for me, I think you've got to throw him in to start with and let him just do it. Ez, are you with me, or are you going to go you in the Burn camp as well?
Well, we won't be seeing Matty Longstaff playing. I can tell you that much. I'm conflicted, right? I would play Botman, of course, all day long. I'd play Botman, but Steady Eddie is not going to play Botman. I think he'll play Sharon Byrne. If you look at the preseason lineup last week, it looked like that was his back five that he was going to go with. I know he said not to read too much into it, but it's a preseason game a week before the Premier League. I think he's going to go with Sharon Byrne. And I think he'll go with Longstaff as well over Willock. He went with Longstaff in the last game against home game against Arsenal. I think against Burnley as well. I think he likes Longstaff. I think he's given him a new contract. Seems to trust him, and so I think it will be Longstaff. Although again, I would probably play Willock in the midfield as well. So I'd go with Botman and Willock, but I think Eddie will go for Cher and Byrne, and he'll go with Longstaff as well.
I think the Longstaff comment is interesting because I see him having a really big season. I think I'm in the same mindset as you, is that he's been given a contract for a reason. I think he's played a lot in pre-season, and to me, he just looks really comfortable on the ball in a minute. But it brings me on to my next point, which would be, who do you think is going to be the most standout player for Newcastle this season? We've seen Almiron in pre-season step up. He kind of started this season so far the way he ended the last one. Seen good things from Elliot Anderson in pre-season. Callum Wilson looks fit. So in your opinion, start with you, Ez, who do you think is going to be the most either breakthrough or breakout player, or the most improved this coming season?
Most improved. It might well be Maxi. I'm hoping it'll be Maxi, but I think given how hard you've seen him work in pre-season, with all to be fair, he's on social media showing how hard he's working. I think that it's his make or break season, basically. If he doesn't do it this season, he's going to be 25, 26. And yeah, we're probably going to need to look to replace him on that left wing next year. So I'm hoping for big things from Maxi. He wants to be a big time player, so now's his time to sort of prove that he's able to sort of step up. Now that he's no longer kind of the biggest player at the club, now we've got the likes of Bruno and Botman and other up and coming players. So I'm hoping to see, given his output was minimal last year. It was minimal. I think he scored 1 goal in 2022. So I hope to see improvement from Maxi.
So Magpie's Bible in the comments is saying no one's mentioned Elliot Anderson. I think he's going to have a good season. I think he'll stay. I think I will keep him. Max, what are your thoughts? Does he make the team? Does he start on Saturday? Is he from the bench? What do you think?
I think he would be a really good option off the bench. If it's a tight game, maybe 0-0, and you need a bit of a joker on the field, you throwing on, maybe create something. They don't know much about him. I think he plays the pockets really good. Could find that final ball. He won the penalty against Atlanta really good. So I think he could be really good. Maybe further into the season he gets the start. I don't know. Maybe it's that right winger we didn't know we had and needed.
So they say it was a lot of money if he turned out to be the right midfielder that we needed after all this time. What about you, Mark? Big season for Almiron ahead. Right back, having Trippier in for the full season. Who do you think is going to make a big impact? Oh, looks like Mark's frozen. And he's gone. Never mind. So we'll move on to some predictions then, lads. So who are you going to go for as tomorrow? What's your thoughts on the score? Goal scorers? And then, as I said, who's going to get booked first? Joe Linton or Colback?
I think Forest will come out the blocks. They'll be off the adrenaline. They'll feed off the crowd as well, I think. So it'll be their first time back in the big time. But I think ultimately our quality and our preparation will tell. And I think we'll win the game 3-1. I think it'll be 3-1. I'm going to go with Joe Linton as the first booking. In fact, I reckon he'll be the first player to be sent off for us as well at some point. I've got no doubts about that.
Oh, it's written. It's absolutely written. It's going to happen. Max, what are you thinking? Goal scorers? What's the score going to be? Who the scorers going to be?
I think 1-0 Wilson first half, and then tight game, and but we win 2-0 in the end with the late goal from Joe Linton.
Okay. So Magpies Bible saying 2-1, Wilson and Bruno with Lingard for them. I have a sneaking suspicion that we'll see a similar thing. I think Lingard might just put them ahead, but we'll come back to win it. But yeah, Mark, we're on to some predictions. Good to have you back. What are you thinking for the
score? Sorry, just dropped out.
Oh, you're all good.
Yeah, I'm thinking I'm going to go for 2-0. Wilson at the double, I think. I'd like to think we get a few more. I think ideally if you can get a few more goals, then it gives you that opportunity to bring on the likes of Elliot Anderson early doors. Maybe sort of 55, 60 minutes in, if you get comfortable lead, and you could do the same thing with Botman as well. I just don't quite have enough confidence to go and come out and say, oh yeah, 4-0 or something like that. But I'm going to go with 2-0. Hopefully a double for Wilson.
Yeah, Black Mamba UK is saying 1 or 2-0 for us, but Forest could surprise us. I think they could. I think they've got a good front line, as Max was saying before, so it could be interesting. Krause Malone, 2-0, Wilson, Linton. Mark, I like your optimism of Callum Wilson at the double. I think he needs a strong start. I think he needs to stay fit. It's a big season for him. And there was somebody mentioned just up in the comments a little bit ago. What are you thinking that we still need to do this season to get up to? First of all, where do you think we'll finish? And if we bring in 1 or 2 more, how much further do you think we could go? And where do you think we need to strengthen?
I think we should be aiming to finish 6th. And I know that sounds a bit outlandish. And I'm not saying we finished there, but I think that should be the aim. If you don't finish there, it's not a failure by any stretch of the imagination. But you just look at the team and we're so hard to beat. It was touched on earlier in the conversation. There's not a lot of weaknesses there, really, especially defensively. And we've added Botman as well, and Pope. So it's hard to see us, against a lot of teams conceding an awful lot of goals. The players have come back. They're ripped. They're absolutely like physical specimens. It's ridiculous. I swear to God, I think Emil Kraft is like eating his older brother or something. It's unbelievable. And we've had a full preseason with how he'll be improving other players as well. We've seen evidence of that with Almiron. But sort of looking outside the club and externally as well, I think there's a real opportunity there this season with the Premier League. I think it's a poor league this season. You've got like the likes of Man City and Liverpool, obviously, who are way out there. I think Spurs, we don't stand a chance there. But, Arsenal, they've had a very good transfer window, but they're still Arsenal. They might just mess things up. You don't know. They're a bit of an unknown. I think, Man United, I don't think they're going to have that good a season. I think the teams we should be trying to compete with this season are the likes of Man United, West Ham, possibly Aston Villa. That could go either way because the jury's still out on Gerrard, but they've got the players. They've got good players. Chelsea are a little bit of a mess as well. They had an awful preseason, and yeah, it's only preseason, absolutely, but they still don't have a striker. Their transfer policy is insane. They've got 7 left backs on the books, and they just bought an 8th today. 60 million quid. Right? Yeah. They've got 7 left backs on the books. I know not all of them are good by any stretch of the imagination, but their transfer policy is just crazy. I think Sterling's a good signing. But I don't think he's the answer to their problems. So I don't think they're fundamentally addressing the problems they've got. And there's a lot of bad teams in the league this season. Other than the teams that have come up, you look at the likes of, Leeds have been massively weakened. I think Southampton are due a poor season. They fell off so badly at the end of last season. Brentford without Christian Eriksen are a different prospect, I think. Everton are awful. And Dominic Calvert-Lewin is injured. Rondon is suspended.
Anyone to get injured, but you do love to see that, don't you?
I like to see it because I really don't want us to sign him. And this presumably takes that off the table. That's just my opinion, but I don't rate the guy injured or otherwise. So I'm glad that that's off the table. Don't wish him any harm, but yeah, I just don't want to see him at Newcastle. So that's good as far as I'm concerned. So it's a fairly poor league if we're being honest this season. I don't think there's any reason why we shouldn't be aiming to try and get sixth. Just not necessarily get it, but challenge for it. At the end of the day, if we finish 10th, no one's going to be upset with that. No one's going to be calling for Howe to get the sack. No one's going to view it as a failure. So that's fine. But let's aim for sixth.
So Magpies Bible pretty much agrees with you. Says we can finish 7th if we get a winger. Max, do you think we need that winger to finish 7th? Do you think the team's got it in them right now to finish up there? We're seeing a lot of comments about anywhere from 5th to 8th, 9th, the top half. Basically, most people are confident in. Do you think we still need that winger, that wide player to really kick us on?
Yeah, well, with the squad we currently have, I would say 10th to 7th is very possible. Depending on who we get in, or if we get someone in, that could change. But I do see if Almiron continues the form he had in preseason, the need for a right winger might not be as urgent, but we still need someone behind because Murphy is just not good enough, in my opinion. So I would really, for me, 7th would be great. And if we get some more attacking players, maybe we could push it to 6th or something higher. But I think there's still a lot of teams that don't really know where you have them. West Ham, Leicester, Wolves. There are a lot of teams that could perform really well, that had good squads. But it's a long season. It's a weird season with the World Cup in the middle of it. You don't know how that's going to affect the outcome. But for me, 7th would be a good season and probably where we should aim.
Cool. Yeah. So Krabs and Malone saying mid-table is bare minimum. Would you agree, Ez?
Yeah, I would say mid-table would be, quite frankly, the same as last year, right? So we were looking to improve and progress. So I would say that people keep saying this, like this kind of like, let's do mid-table and then do a run in the cups. Like the two things are like exclusive of one another. Like, no, let's smash the league and do well in the cups. That would be great.
Yeah, I'm not about that either.
Yeah, I don't understand it.
Get that league position in. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we're realistically probably going to finish somewhere around 7th or 8th. I agree with Mark. I think we should be here trying to go for top 6, but we don't have the money to pay for the attacking players we need to really, really, I think, confidently say we're going to attack the top 6 this season. We just don't have it. I don't think we've got 50 million to spend on the likes of Madsen, for example. So that's why I'm a little bit more cautious about everything. A little bit downbeat, if I'm being honest with you, but then bigger picture, look where we were last year. We just about signed Joe Willock, and that was it. So, 7th or 8th.
I just wanted to say as well, because I hear an awful lot of people, trot this line out about, oh yeah, mid-table will be fine, 10th, lovely, especially if we get a run in the cups, blah, blah, blah. Well, if that's okay with you, are you prepared to lose Bruno Guimaraes? Like that's the question you've got to ask yourself, because this guy is that good. Like, if we finish 10th again, I couldn't blame him for wanting to move to a Champions League club. And I'm not saying we have to make the Champions League this season to keep him, but we have to show some level of progression, in my opinion. So for me, it's key that we push on.
What worries me is that Eddie Howe said today, actually, even in fact, that we've under the constraints of FFP, right, and we will be for years. Now that's concerning because, as you say, we've sold the dream to the likes of Botman and Bruno, and at the same time, it doesn't look like we can kind of like really, really add quality to the squad quickly enough, and that's a concern.
And there you go. That's another one ticked. Well, X'd off the list. So West Ham have signed Maxwell Cornet, one that was rumored to be on our list. Is that something we've missed? Maybe even for the price, because I think it was a 17 million release clause. Is that something we should be upset about, Max, or can we do better than that?
Well, looking at his stats from last season when he joined Burnley, he scored a lot of goals. It was very hyped up. I don't think we were particularly interested in like it was with Madison, because if we wanted to pay that money to get him, I think we would have. And I don't think Eddie Howe was particularly fancy him that much and I don't see him being too much of an improvement on Almiron, or well, Murphy will be on, but not Almiron. So I don't think that's.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think if he was high up on that list, I think with a 17 million release clause, I think that deal gets done pretty fast.
I think
they can move fast when they need to. Go on.
I just think on that, like the release clause, I believe is £17.5 million. But the key with those release clauses is normally you have to put all the cash down. Yeah. So there's no installments. And the rumor is we've got somewhere around about 20 to 25 million quid left, like right now, to put down. So that's not to say you can't go out and spend 40 million quid on a player, but obviously a large chunk of that has to be on installments. So if you blow 17.5 million of your liquid cash that's available now, what are you going to do in terms of getting a striker target in? And I think that's probably why we didn't do it.
Yeah, I think, from what I'd heard too, the structure of the deal, as you said, they I think from somebody reported that they were even offering more than the buyout clause to structure it over time, which would make sense. But all right, lads. So I think we've all said we're looking to a Newcastle victory tomorrow, all from different scorelines, 2-1, 3-0, I think it was. So what are you guys doing for the game? Mark, you've got a ticket, right?
I got a ticket. I'll be in the East Stand towards the Gallagher corner. Should be a great atmosphere. I was sat around there, albeit this time I'm a little bit higher up. I was sat around there for the Arsenal game, which is probably the best match I've been to in 10 plus years. So yeah, I can't wait. Really looking forward to it. I'm sure I'll be having a few drinks before and after as well. So it should be a good day.
I have to say, I've rewatched that Arsenal game 2 or 3 times in full over the summer. Just wanted to get back. It's been so good.
And that highlights reel doesn't get boring.
No. How are you watching it, Max?
Well, I've been watching it in my sofa with some snacks and be very nervous, but also very excited.
And you, Ez?
I was at the Arsenal game, by the way. I still can't get that out.
Amazing.
I will, unfortunately, I'm sure everyone's watching this has been there. I'll be at a wedding, so I'll be trying to watch it on my phone at a wedding by any means possible, if you catch my drift.
Yeah, well, Mark, we hope you have a great day there. We hope it's all going to be a great result, and we're going to have something good to talk about. We're going to be back tomorrow after the game with the review show, going over what we hope is going to be a huge 5-0 victory. Joelinton hat-trick, obviously, a couple for Callum Wilson, standard. So thank you very much for joining us all on the NUFC 360 YouTube channel. Thank you, lads. Appreciate your time and enjoy the game tomorrow.
Cheers, Ben.
Thank you, guys.
See you guys.